to have what they called a more perfect union. They already had confederates having their own constitutions, but they felt that they needed a stronger government at the center, but federative units strong enough to stand on their own, but not too strong to override the central government. That was how they met. Great American people, Alexander Hamilton, John James, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, who became the first president of America emerging from that conference. These were the great federalists. And they decided to set for themselves a new constitution. Agreed on certain articles of faith: republicanism, presidentialism, and federalism. It was from that constitutional conference they decided to have not just a presidential system of government, but also what you call judicial review of administrative actions. They decided to have a tripartite system of government: the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. A doctrine which earlier in 1748 was ably propounded by Baron de Montesquieu, a great French philosopher. To have a Bill of Rights. And so that constitution was promulgated finally in June 1787, 10 years after they became independent. Guess what? They did not claim to know it all. The 50 delegates that attended, 39 of the delegates signed. They still subjected it to the 13th Confederate States for their approval through a referendum. A referendum is key to any constitution making. That is why the American Constitution, which is just 192 pages, about 27 amendments, 7,591 words, unlike the Nigerian Constitution, which is as large as a portfolio, this stands the test of time, hundreds of years later. So the process by which a constitution comes into effect, therefore, is very, very important. Right now, the Green Chambers have set up a committee to amend the Constitution after the first four amendments. And the Senate has also set up a 43-man committee. My brother and good friend here, Tambuwal, a man who has conquered not just the legislature, but the executive. We are preventing him from coming to the judiciary. He's there. But with this, their work amounts to what we are looking for. Is it just a case of amendments to the Constitution that is our problem? Can you amend a bad document? Can you amend a fundamentally flawed document? My humble answer is that you cannot. 1 million amendments multiplied by 1 million amendments added to 1 million amendments of the present fundamentally flawed Constitution cannot cure it of its original sin, like the original sin committed by Adam and Eve. What is that original sin? It is that it was imposed on you and I militarily by a military junta led by General Abdulsalami Abubakar, 28 members of the Provisional Ruling Council. It was never subjected to any referendum of the people. And guess what? The present constitution was attached as a mere schedule. Can you believe that? To decree number 24 of 1999. So the constitution you are using is a mere schedule attached to a decree. So how can you amend it? How do you cleanse it of that leprous pedigree? How? I will tell you. Like Naaman the leper that dipped himself into River Jordan 7 times to become cleansed of his leprosy. Nigerians must own their own constitution through a popular referendum of the people, like was done to the Midwest Constitution on the 10th of August 1963 when it separated from Western region. Without that, we will just be on a journey to no destination. Make no mistake about that. So all these problems you see, insecurity, mutual distrust, religious tolerance, civilians attacking army therefore retaliating with mightier force, burning down a whole village, a whole city. Everybody is saying Buhari was prebendalistic, cronyistic, sectionalistic, that the President Tinubu is also following same, being prebendalistic, chronistic, sectionalistic. All these are mere symptoms of a larger ailment, which is that we are operating a system we have not agreed to operate. When Miss Flora Louisa Shaw, on 8th January 1897, was giving Nigeria her name after the area around the Niger area, we were already existing as different nationalities within our domains. The Hausa city-states, the Igbo city-states, the Kanem Borno Empire, the Oyo Empire, the Ife Empire, the Benin Kingdom. The people had their system of government and governance. So, to cobble together such a people without giving them a say, as Lord Lugard did on the 1st of January 1914, when he brought together the northern and southern protectorates to found Nigeria and the Lagos colony. Together, that agreement was to last for 100 years, which expired on the 1st of January 2014. Can we not sit down to renegotiate our nationhood? We can believe in ourselves. That is the national question. That is why no one believes in Nigeria. Rather, Nigerians believe in their unions. Drive across on a Saturday or Sunday, you will see Bra Union, Ijo Union, Esako Union, Birom Association, TV Diaspora Union. The reason is that people believe more in their home state than a country called Nigeria. When you want me to fill a form, and after asking me for my name, and you further ask about my religion, then you ask about where I come from and the language I speak, you are already profiling me, not as a Nigerian, but as someone who comes from that enclave. And guess what? What you are going to get will be what they see there. So when I hear the Yorubas, some of them are still complaining today that they are being marginalized. I say, eh? The Northerners, Hausa Fulanis are complaining of marginalization right now. The Igbos, their cases well known, have always been at the receiving end, being marginalized. Then I ask, what of myself, a minority, being a minority, from a tiny village called Ijukwe near Agenebode in Esako, East Local Government Area? What do you want me to say? Because Abiola said the bigger the head, the bigger the headache. So my headache is bigger. So we are therefore going to look at some of the issues now, how we can solve this problem, which we have highlighted, so that we can move forward. Now, Professor Nwaboze gave us a very beautiful treatise as to how we can bring about a people's constitution. In his seminal paper, Legal Authority for the Convening and Holding of a National Conference and for the Making of a People's Constitution, the learned professor said that the present National Assembly is already in place. You are happy because I say you are already in, because your fears have always been that in trying to bring about a people's constitution, we are going to sideline the National Assembly. It is not possible. It is a reality. Because the National Assembly itself came into being. Elections were held in 1999, even before the 1999 Constitution. So the elections were held with the Constitution. So the emergence of the National Assembly, therefore, was based on the will of the people, what we call salus populi supremalis. The will of the people is supreme. So Professor Nwaboze therefore theorized that because the National Assembly is in place, they have the power to convene and conduct a national conference. And that what they should do is that they should look at their powers beyond the power to alter the Constitution in sections 8 and 9 and go to section 315, which makes the present Constitution as an existing law being a document attached as a schedule to Decree number 24. And that the National Assembly should yank off the Constitution from that schedule under using section 1, subsection 1. And then simultaneously replace it with a brand new Constitution, doing away with the schedule, with the military dictatorship aura. He has example of the British Order in Council, which under section 2 had made the 1963 independent constitution a schedule. But under the 1963 Republican Constitution, the British government used the British Order in Council, yanked it off, and replaced it, and we therefore had the 1963 Republican Constitution. One of the best arguably the best constitutions we have ever had in this country. Better than the 2022 Clifford Constitution, the 1922 Clifford Constitution, 1946 Arthur Constitution, 1951 McPherson Constitution, 1954 Little Constitution. That 1963 Constitution, to me, if you look at it, which brought about fiscal federalism for each state to grow, each region to grow according to its might. Western region, Eastern region, Northern region is where we have to think of going back to. That was why the late sage Obafemi Awolowo, who controlled the mono product of Western region, cocoa product, could impact heavily on his people, giving them free education at all levels. University of Ife. I'm an alumni of that university. You know there are 2 universities in Nigeria, sir. University of Ife and others. He's the brainchild of Awolowo, the Cocoa House in Ibadan. See the tallest building in Ibadan till today, Liberty Stadium. The first television station in Africa, Western Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation, because he had access to his funds. There was no federal government. He was just paying 20% royalty to the federal government at the center. Then 30% was shared by all the regions, and then 50% for their region. The Ahmadu Bello, the Sardauna of Sokoto, was able to use the hide and skin, cotton, products of Northern region to build the Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, NNDC, the Amdala Hotel, the Yankari Game Reserve, the Arewa group of companies. They are still there till today. You all see them. Dr. Akanu Ibiam, Dr. Michael Opala, using the mono product of palm oil in the East, was able to develop Eastern region. The monuments are there, presidential hotels, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Transamadi Estate, the Cattle Ranch Obubro, the stadium, University of Nigeria Nsukka, because he had access to his funds. Court of Midwest region, which was created through the help of people like Dr. Dennis Osadebe, Oba Akenzwa II, Kesinti Momo, Chief Anthony Nahoro, Jereti Mariri Oketiebo, Omimiejo. They used their timber and plywood and rubber to develop all they wanted, the Ugeli Glass Factory, the Okpela Cement Factory, the University of Benin. So what has changed? That people who produce a product, you are saying they should be grateful for being given 30% of the product. Everybody goes to Abuja to go and share the national cake every month using commissioners for finance. But no one cares about how that national cake is baked. Is that how we are going to survive as a country? Using 80 to 85% for recurrent expenditure, no capital expenditure? Is that how we are going to grow? So Professor Nwabueze got it. But my only quarrel with Professor Nwabueze, and I had told him when we discussed this matter, that yanking off the Constitution from the schedule using Section 1.1 has not cured it of the illegitimacy we are talking about, nor made it autochthonous. Without a referendum, you say, young man, I think I see what you are saying. That is one procedure to go forward to have a new constitution. National Assembly, replace the new constitution, yank it off under Section 1.1 of that decree, replace it with the new constitution, and we move on. But my own argument is that it has not made it the people's constitution. Then, we look at another example of national conferences where matters like this were hotly debated, particularly in the Francophone states, where they debated all this to manage conflicts and foster political, social, and economic well-being and welfare. 1990, President Matthew Kereko, Republic of Benin. Congo Brazzaville, 1991 National Conference, Denis Sassou Nguesso. Mali, President Ibrahim Traoré, 1991. Togo, 1990, President Nasigbe Eyadema. Democratic Republic of Congo, of President Mobutu Sese Seko, 1991 to 1992. Then let us now look at procedure through the National Assembly. My take on this is that the National Assembly has a big role to play in bringing about a people's constitution. What are the ingredients they will use to cook this people's soup? I've talked about the 1963 Republican Constitution. The beautiful provisions are there. They are not dead. Then in 2014, sir, many of us here, including Baba, Chief Olabode George, we were all at the National Conference, including Dr. Idi Kakalu, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, Dr. General Ike Nwachukwu, our own Papa Obong Attah. We all came together. The delegates were thrown up by different methods. Listen, 2014 National Conference qualifies as a constituent assembly of the people. You do not require to waste further funds and energy looking for others. The reason is that the 492 members were thrown up by the people themselves, and you can throw up people through election and selection. For example, the people that came from Ogun State, I do not know how they emerged, but I am sure that the governor certainly knew how their people emerged to represent them at that conference. Local governments were represented, states were represented, elder statesmen and women, market men and women, the civil society, students were even there. The disabled, they were there. Military, police personnel were there. The diplomatic corps were there. Federal government itself was represented. Traditional rulers. It was a potpourri. In fact, for the first 2 weeks, the issue that we were debating was issue of representation. Where we were represented, we fought and fought and fought. All agreed, sir, you are all here. We all agreed that the representation was good and representative enough of our nation, because ethnic nationalities were represented. Afenifere, the Middle Belt people, Ohanese, they were there, Arewa. So every segment, professional groups, private and public sectors, we were all there. I, for example, was thrown up by my local government through the people and traditional rulers at Auchi Polytechnic. But by the time we got to Abuja, my name had been removed by power that be. And when the then president, Ebele Jonathan Goodluck, heard of it, he said, no, why? This young man has something to contribute. So they had to put my name. They attached it as an addendum. Can you all remember? So most of you, all of you were at that national conference, they gave me the nickname addendum. So I became an addendum. In other words, so that 2014 national conference qualifies as a constituent assembly or constitutional conference of the people. The over 600 recommendations they made, some of them were for mere executive implementation, some were constitutional. And I was lucky to be elected or appointed by the Committee on Judiciary and Human Rights to head the subcommittee of how to bring about a new constitution. And our recommendations are there. Why are we afraid to look at them? So my take on this, therefore, is that the National Assembly stake comes in now, sir. Just promulgate a law setting up what I call a National Referendum Commission, NRC, National Referendum Commission. That commission define its powers. Don't put a no-go area like Ibrahim Babangida once did. Let them get to work. The ultimate being to aggregate together the beautiful decisions of the 2014 National Conference, the beautiful provisions of the 1963 Republican Constitution, and the beautiful work you are currently doing in your own amendment based on your memorandum that you have. Let the National Referendum Commission look at all of them and work on them to give Nigeria a constitution. And what to do within 6 months. This law we are talking about, sir, you can do first reading, second reading, third reading. We have seen you do it on some occasions, first reading, second reading, third reading, on an urgent matter. The entire of this process that can take Nigeria forward can be finished and concluded, sir, in 6 months. I can help to drive it. 6 months. We will have a new dawn for this country. And then what happens thereafter? Simple. Then look at the collated document in the form of a constitution using section 5 of the Constitution, which is executive powers, after a referendum of the people, ayes or nays. That's what a referendum means. Ayes or nays. Do we still agree to continue with our presidential system of government, which is energy sapping and draining? Nay. If nay, what? Is it parliamentary system of government? Hey. And then the National Assembly will get that clear. There will be no problem about that. So, can this be possible? Yes, sir. As a lawyer and historian, Iraq did it, constitutional referendum, on the 15th of October, 2005. Kenya did it on, we call it their own official referendum, on the 4th of April, 2010. Iran did it through their constitutional referendum on the 3rd of December, 1979, after the Ayatollah Khomeini regime. Bangladesh did it through a constitutional referendum on the 15th of September, 1991. The people voted 83.6% to go their own way. Morocco did it on the 1st of July, 2011. Egypt did it on the 15th and 14th of December, 2012. Eritrea did it through a constitutional commission in 1994. I've already given you the American example of 1787, between May 14 and September 17, when they had their constitution, which is a living document. So we can count, sir, en masse. Many countries that have done this: Russia, Pakistan, UK. Remember the Brexit, when Britain decided to leave the European Union on the 23rd of June 2016. Remember Chile. Remember Denmark, Romania, Spain. All of them, Singapore, Taiwan, Norway, Greece, Hong Kong, Mexico, Italy. All of them, at one time or the other, including Australia, at one time or the other, they subjected their constitutions to the people's referendum. And then, because of that, the constitutions became autochthonous, homegrown, indigenous, respectable, acceptable, legitimate, and believable by the people. All the qualities of which the present 1999 Constitution clearly lacks, having been militarily imposed. What are those things we expect in this new constitutional dispensation? Very quickly, sir, so that I don't take much time, sir. Thank you, Chair. I humbly propose solutions as follows. We need a 6-zonal federal structure, sir. 6-zonal federal structure. The 6-zonal federal structure, because people are always jealously guarding their present domain. They don't want their states to go. Leave states as federated units, no problem. But have 6-zonal structure, which are directly overseeing the states. Each of these, there will still be a central federal constitution. Then the zonal will have their own constitutions. Each state will be permitted to operate and own its own police force and court systems, up to the Supreme Court of a state, as you have it in America. In America, every state has its own Supreme Court. It is only critical constitutional matters that go to the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. Each state, local government, which they call county council, even institutions, tertiary institutions, they have their own police force. Allow governors to maintain their own police and fund them. This question of fear that, oh, they will misuse it, is the federal government not misusing the police force? Create Supreme Courts for the sub-regional groups to handle matters that come from the 36 states. Just as you have the Western Region, can you remember? Western Region Court of Appeal. We used to have it. Cases came from the Western Region, finally to the Western Region Court of Appeal. Before, in those days, you talk about the Privy Council and Supreme Court in Lagos. Why should a person who stole a piece of fish in a small village in Buguma or Kauranamoda have his case finally ending up at the Supreme Court in Abuja? It's so meaningless and wasteful. I suggest here that states should be granted full control over their resources and pay 30% to the central government at the center to be able to carry out its functions, which I will itemize. Vulnerable groups and gender must be given equality in our national affairs, particularly women. I am here advocating that the National Assembly is too unwieldy. 109 senators, 360 members, of the House of Representatives. They drain the scarce resources of the country. When Nigi speaks, his original offense, like, or sin like Adam and Eve, is why did you say it? What is the solution? The present constitution, they actually say, if you sit for 6 months in a year, you have already passed. So either you abolish one of the twin bicameral legislature, either you abolish the green chamber or the red chamber, or allow them to sit on part-time basis, so that when you sit, when you don't get it, you will see people who transmute easily from governors to senators. Some of them will decide to better go into farming, which is more profitable. How much am I going to be receiving for honorarium by sitting? I'm running off. Thank you. So we should have it that way. There should be power rotation, constitutionalized between the North and the South. We should create special constitutional and anti-corruption courts so as to revamp our decaying electoral process. We must enable funding of National Assembly members, those that will remain, by constituent states, not from the central government, which will now have fewer things to do. And what will they be doing? Finance, taxation, external affairs, internal defense, military operations. Very few. What the government about marriage? What you call you go to the marriage registry to go and wed, and it's under the Marriage Act. So the federal government is guiding your relationship with your wife. What is their business? What's the federal government's business with what they call unitary schools, from these secondary schools, which should even be the business of local government areas? So I think we are missing it entirely. And finally, sir, as I end this, we have to know that the will of the people is supreme. Even Section 14 of the present Constitution says that government derives its power and authority from the people. The tail cannot wag the dog. It is the dog that wags the tail. So we must respect the human rights of the people, the community. Our governments must provide for the people. The welfare and security of the people is the primary function of government, Section 14. A government that cannot secure its citizens or give them food is not a government. Above all, in doing this constitution, remember the Nigerian people. Subject whatever this National Referendum Commission, NRC, collates together to a referendum of the Nigerian people. And then we can have a brand new constitution at the new beginning. God bless you all.